My name is Mike Fasano, Senate District 11, that encompasses Pinellas County, North Pinellas, West Pasco, West Hernando, and just the west side of US 19 in Citrus County. The four counties make up about 450,000 residents. Those who are struggling right now, unemployment in all four counties, we see double-digit unemployment rates. We see many of my constituents who are struggling of how they're going to pay their mortgage payment each month, how they're going to pay their electric bill. We see some lights at the end of the tunnel with a few jobs coming back, but still no different than the rest of the states. One of the big issues, of course, in those four counties, especially all counties along the coast, and that's property insurance. Their premiums continue to rise, the coverage continue to deplete, and we're seeing now bills here in Tallahassee that might even hurt that homeowner, that property owner, that mobile homeowner, that condo owner even more. So they're concerned about that. Other concerns are families who are, you know, maybe there were two jobs in the family, there's only one now, but yet they still got the same bills. Education, of course, is key. We've, in two of my counties, Pasco and Hernando, over the last few years, an enormous amount of growth where schools had to have been built. They have overcrowding in some of the schools with many portables outside those schools. So I would say even though those four counties I represent have problems, but they're no different, or there are similar problems that we're seeing throughout the rest of Florida. Well, I was honored to have gotten elected in 1994 to the Florida House of Representatives, and that was 17 years ago. But I think the most important thing is I've got, God has blessed me with the best staff I could ask for. Two of them, Greg Giordano, Christine Hunter, have been with me since day one 17 years ago. I tell them every morning it's because they have a great boss, but really I have a great staff, and I'm fortunate. I think what we bring to any public service or public office, and that is constituent service. When I was majority leader of the Florida House back in 2000 and 2001, I told my freshman members back then, it doesn't matter what bills you pass, it doesn't matter what appropriations you may get to bring back home as a pet project. The most important thing is keeping in touch with your constituents, returning that phone call to Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Smith when they call and they need some help. And my staff and our office has been successful, I think, being put together one of the best constituent service programs any legislator could have. And we bring that to the Florida legislature. And I think a commitment of service, a commitment of protecting the consumer. One of the major issues that my constituents back home is who's representing them in Tallahassee to protect them. There are many special interest groups in Tallahassee, and many of them are great special interest groups, and they are well represented. Unfortunately, we see more and more problems dealing with consumer issues, but very few people that are advocating on behalf of the consumer anymore in Tallahassee. And what I try and tell everybody is that we have to continue to express the concerns that our constituents are telling us when it comes to consumer issues, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to paying their electric bill, when it comes to paying their homeowner's insurance premium. I serve on banking and insurance, which I'm pleased that President Herodopoulos has asked me to serve on there, so we can take a look at some of the bills that are coming across our desk that deal with property insurance and insurance as a whole throughout the state of Florida. I serve on governmental oversight, which, as you know, we're dealing with pension reform. We're not going to take the governor's proposals because, unfortunately, the governor's proposal balances the budget on the workers of the state of Florida. The Senate has taken a different approach. We want to make certain that whatever we do in pension reform is equal, fair, and also it just makes certain that when people are ready to retire, that their pension is going to be there. We're not going to balance the budget on their backs. I also serve as chairman of the Appropriations Committee that deals with civil and criminal justice. This is my first year in doing that. For the past 6 years, I've served as chair of the TED Appropriations Committee, Transportation Economic Development. This is truly different, and now dealing with a budget, about a $4 billion budget that oversees our Department of Corrections, Department of Juvenile Justice, our state attorneys, our public defenders, our court system, and our clerks of the circuit court throughout the states. We have many challenges dealing with our budget this year. But you know what? We'll get through it because we've gotten through past years with similar budget problems. This year, of course, a $3.7 billion shortfall as far as revenue is concerned. But you know, unlike what they can do in Washington and print money every time they need additional dollars or create a new program or purchase a new program in Washington, we don't have that luxury. Thankfully, we don't. We have to balance our budget. The Constitution requires us to do that. But the challenges we face now are, what programs do we cut? What programs do we shrink? What services that are we providing to our senior citizens, our persons with disabilities, our veterans, our children, our educational system? Every part of our budget is going to be reduced. There's no question about that. We have to, because when you have a $3.7 billion shortfall, it's going to affect every part of the state budget, whether it's our court system, whether it's our roads, whether it's our educational system, our health and human service programs. Every program is going to be reduced. Hopefully, by not as much as any other program, that we have a similar reduction of 4 or 5 or 6% across the board. That's what I'm doing in my committee, and it seems to be working. And everybody understands that. We've had very few whiners or complainers this year, and I think it's because people understand that you can't grow money on a tree, and we don't have the printing presses they have in Washington to print additional dollars. So we have to work with what's given to us by the taxpayers. And they've made it very clear to work within our means. They have to do the same within their small businesses and in their households. We need to do the same thing here in Tallahassee. The big ones are the reduction in our budget. We're going to have to reduce our budget by close to $300 million, and that's significant. We are going to have to look at ways, innovative ways of how we can reduce the size of government without having an impact on our public safety when it comes to the Department of Corrections, the Department of Juvenile Justice, making sure that our state attorneys and our public defenders have the resources they need so they can run their departments with very few or little layoffs, making sure that our third branch of government, our court system, have the resources they need so people have access to our courts. That is the most important thing. And whether somebody is guilty or innocent, whether somebody needs a civil attention or trial, that they have access to those courts, and that's important. So those are our challenges, and we're looking at ways we can reduce our budget by maybe having the Department of Juvenile Justice come up with a program, as they are in some parts of the state, where as we see the reduction of juvenile crime coming down, we are able to maybe use some of those additional dollars into the front-end programs like the Marine Institutes and the PACE programs, where they have been extremely effective in helping our juveniles who are not in big trouble, but are on the road of getting into big trouble, but we catch them early and help them and their families. The Department of Corrections, we're looking at privatizing our mental and health services, our dental services, our pharmacy services. We have found by privatizing those areas, we could save the taxpayers between $60 and $75 million a year. These are innovative ways that we're working with the Governor's Office, with the Department of Corrections, the new Secretary of DOC and DJJ, our state's attorneys, our public defenders. Everybody is coming to the table with some very good ideas of how we can reduce the budget but minimize the impact. One of the major epidemics we have in the state and crisis, Jeb Bush recognized this when he was governor. Charlie Crist recognized this when he was Attorney General and governor. Our present Attorney General, Pam Bondi, has recognized that our prescription drug epidemic, narcotics. We have a doctor shopping epidemic in this state that is beyond control. We have residents coming from other states, from Kentucky, Virginia, Ohio, coming to Florida to get online outside of pill mills, pain management clinics. They're called pain management clinics. I don't believe they are. I think they're just dishing out drugs, or they're writing out prescriptions so you can get them filled. They're coming from other states to Florida, and they're dying. We have 7 people, sadly, we have 7 people that die every day because of overdoses, not of illegal drugs, but legal narcotics. And the good thing is over the last couple of years, we have put in place through legislation to go after those pill mills, the unscrupulous characters, stopping felons from owning pill mills, making certain that doctors that own them are legitimate doctors and law-abiding doctors, making sure that pill mills now are regulated in such a way that they're licensed. Think about it, they weren't licensed before. We allowed felons to own them, they no longer can own them, that they're now being inspected and they have to register. And because of that, we're seeing some changes. Unfortunately, though, a prescription drug monitoring program that Governor Bush sought after years ago, we finally got that passed 2 years ago. Unfortunately, that has not gone into place yet. And I believe once it does, we will be able to attack much of the epidemic that we see in the state, stopping the doctor shopping, stopping the overprescribing, and making sure that those people that come from out of state to get our narcotics, they will no longer be able to do that. It's interesting because 34 other states in the nation have a prescription drug monitoring program. Well, guess where those residents from those 34 states are coming to get the narcotics illegally? They're coming to Florida, and that's why we are called the pill mill capital of the world. I hope I can convince my colleagues and the governor that want to repeal the prescription drug monitoring program, that want to reduce the regulations we put in place to go after the felons that own pill mills, to stop the House from deregulating the pill mill industry. They want to, unfortunately, allow them to exist without any regulations, licensing, or restrictions, allowing felons to once again own them. Repeal the drug monitoring program. I'm hoping that my House colleagues and the governor will realize that's the wrong direction we need to go. Senator Herodopoulos and my colleagues are strong in keeping in place what we've put there over the last couple of years and keeping the prescription drug monitoring program in place as well. You know, I said earlier that we find fewer and fewer people in Tallahassee advocating on behalf of consumers, and that concerns me. There are many good people throughout the state, but there are very few people left, I believe, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to my colleagues, but very few voices left in the Florida House and the Florida Senate that are advocating on the consumer, the little guy and gal back home. And there are so many bills now, both in the Florida House and Florida Senate, that would be I think, in a way, a negative impact on every consumer in the state, whether it be your utility rates, telephone rates, insurance, property insurance premiums, the list goes on. And I have great concerns when we finish this session that we'll see legislation go to the governor, which he will probably sign, that will be so detrimental to every consumer in the state of Florida. They will see their electric rates go up. They will see their telephone bills go up. They will definitely see their property insurance premiums go up. So we've got to speak out loud and clear, and there are a few of us that are doing that. We've got to encourage those back in our district to reach out to their Florida House and Florida Senate member, letting them know that they're watching very closely to see what we vote on and what we pass over the next 60 days. I appreciate the opportunity of serving for the last 17 years. The people in Pasco, Pinellas, Hernando, and Citrus have honored me to send me back here, my staff, to do the best job we possibly can. We have some tough decisions to make, but no different than what we have had to do in the last 17 years.